Welcome to the Jonathan Simpson podcast. Hey team, this is Jonathan Simpson. It is Sunday the 13th in the afternoon, and I'm going to start doing a podcast channel, obviously not to replace the CDs and audios that you guys are listening to on a daily basis. There's no way I can replace that information. What I wanted to do is do some quick 5 to 10 minute segments to give you guys some specific information that will help you where you're at in your business right now. A lot of the people on my team are kind of in a spot where they're building their list, their C list, they're out contacting, they're out showing the plan, putting people into the business in the sponsoring mode. So I wanted to give you guys some specific tips that will help you build your business on a day-to-day basis. Today we're going to talk about the topic is edification. And the edification is really, really important when you're putting in your width and your structure. So guys, what we're going to talk about today is the what, why, and the how behind edification. And to help me with that, we have a special guest speaker, a really good friend of mine and a great business partner, Nick Truey, is in the house today, literally. And we're going to have him actually share on the what and the why of edification. So Nick is actually one of the top IBOs in my team at this particular subject, which is why I'm having him share. He's also a 2,500 in the business, has a very large growing team down in Knoxville, Tennessee. So, Nick, why don't you go ahead and kick it off with an introduction and go ahead and just jump into the why and the what of edification. Here you go.
This is Nick here. Basically, my background, just to give you guys a quick snapshot. Well, one, I'm actually down on Jonathan's team, too in depth from him to be exact. But background is I went to school for kinesiology with a minor in nutrition. So kind of a health background there. Also, I was Army infantry officer for 5 years. Actually, last part of it was in the Georgia Guard. And then I'm currently a design engineer technician for a company in Knoxville, Tennessee. So that's kind of a little bit of my background. Been in business for right at 6.5 years now. What I'm going to do is two things really simple. I'm going to explain the psychology behind edification. Otherwise, what is going on to that prospect or that individual you're edifying someone to. Okay, and then after I explain what's going on with them, then I'm going to explain why we do that. So you see how those two things connect. If we explain what's going on and then why we're doing it, the end state goal, then you understand what you understand on a deeper basis. Okay, so the first thing is this: is when you edify, you're simultaneously changing their priorities. And lots of people say, hey, how does that make sense? I don't understand what you mean by that. Well, this is very simple. People do what they do because they want to do it. And what they want to do is where it is at on their priority list. So the higher something is on their priority list, the higher chances that's what they're going to want to do. So if we can change someone's priorities, now this is for their benefit, so we're not manipulating them for the wrong thing, for evil things. So if we can change someone's priority, we change what they do. Okay, very simple. How do you change someone's priority? Well, you change their value on something. And how do you change the value? You change the value on something by edification. Very simple how it leads up. So if you edify, you change value of something or someone. You're raising the value of someone. And if the higher the value, the higher the value equals where they're going to put it on their priority list. So higher value equals higher place on priority list for people. Okay, does that make sense? So that's what we're actually doing. If you think about this, when I edify, let's say I'm edifying my upline, Jonathan Simpson here, or I'm edifying anybody that's showing the plan or whatever the situation may be, if we're rolling into an attitude session, a plan, if we're going to a conference, I'm edifying that speaker or speakers. Very simple, because when I edify, I raise the value in that individual. And once value has been raised, I'm trying to raise it so much that I'm taking the value of this individual and event to where now that value is so high, it is higher on their priority list, upping the probability and the chances of them taking advantage of it. Very simple. So that's what we're doing to their minds psychologically. It's very simple, very basic. So if you up edification, I'll say this again, you can write this lineage down. Edification equals upped value in someone or something. And if you up value, that equals higher on their priority list. And higher on the priority list equals they're going to take advantage of it. Okay? That's what's going on to them psychologically when we're edifying. So you need to understand that's what we're doing. Now, why do we edify? So we explain the what's going on with them in their mind when we have proper edification. Now we're going to explain why we do that. Okay? Because there's got to be a why behind it. If you don't have a why, you don't have a drive and a purpose to implement edification. Very basic, okay? So the next thing is this, is why we're doing it. So edification, we already know it raises value, okay? Well, we want to know what edification does for your team. We already know what it's doing to that individual. We want to know what it does for your team, what it does for business, what it does for success in your life, okay? So if we in-state result, it's gonna do this. It's gonna up action and attitude, and obviously the more action and attitude, proper action and proper attitude people have in your team equals more success happening, because you have to put in an action and attitude to produce success. So this is what's going on when you edify someone. You're creating that value at a higher level. We already know that. But what you're doing is you're creating heroes in people's minds. And what does every individual in the world want to do? They want to get around heroes. They want to get around people that have success, people that have already been through the minefield of life, so they can receive knowledge and wisdom to get to that success level at a faster rate and avoid all the mistakes that individual made. I mean, it's genius if you think about it. So if you have good edification, you're raising the value which makes someone a hero. Now, when someone is a hero to somebody, when they have high value to someone, you now gave them credibility and power to speak into that prospect's life. Very simple. So now, since they're a hero, what comes out of their mouth is gold to that prospect of yours. And that means that speaker now has the power to change their life. And that speaker has the power to now affect the environment and the atmosphere at a much higher level. And we already know if they have that power to speak into their life, if what's coming out of their mouth is gold and they're massively affecting the environment and the atmosphere, all because you edified, what that ends up doing is upping their action. Just think about it. If you're in a very positive environment with tons of energy at a conference, and this speaker has already been edified to you, your value of this person is higher, so what comes out of his mouth is more important. All this leads to up to action. So I'll say the lineage here, and you can write this down. So the what lineage was really simple. You can rewind and listen to it. This is why we're doing what we're doing. So if we edify, that ups value, otherwise creates heroes. When you create heroes, they have that credibility. So the heroes now lead to upping the environment and the atmosphere. And upping the environment and atmosphere immediately and correlates to upping individuals' actions. Action ups, business goes up, business grows, everyone's producing more success. So that's why edification is so important. So we now know what we're doing to the individual, and now we know why we're doing it to the individual. It's for their success and for our success, because we're not in business. We're in business for ourselves, but not by ourselves, right? So it's a team effort. So really, that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to explain the what and the why on it.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate that. That was great information. Honestly, couldn't have explained that better. Last thing is this, guys. I want to give you some practical knowledge or some practical techniques coming out of here on how to use edification. Everybody on my team outside of Nick and Chris Truey are the ones that are just showing the plan, and their upline is doing the getting started meeting for them. If your upline's helping you, you're at an advantage. And here's your advantage, because you don't have to be the person that is that has the power, has the knowledge, right? You can pass that on to an upline through edification. So I want to give you a quick example. Let's say that you're on Chris Truey's team down in Tennessee, and you're the person you're making the contacts, you're calling people, booking QIs, and showing the plan. They're coming to the info session, and you are passing them off to Chris or Nick to help them for them to do the GSM. On the actual QI, when you're wrapped up with that, they say they want to get more information. What I would recommend doing is, if Chris is the person that you know is going to be following up with them, I would edify the speaker, and that might be Chris or that might be somebody else, but I would edify the speaker, tell you how successful and important the speaker is. But I would also take a minute and say, hey, by the way, you're going to get a chance to meet my mentor, Chris Truey. Let me tell you about Chris Truey. This guy is 27 years old. He's got a successful background in the corporate world as a banker, has been very successful there, but he's also been extremely successful in Knoxville with his own business. He's going to be one of the, he's actually one of the most successful young entrepreneurs in town. And if he is at the meeting, and I'll get a chance to introduce you to him after the meeting's over, if he offers you a time on his calendar to actually get more information, sit down with him, I would highly recommend you take advantage of that, because he doesn't work with many people. And if he gives you a shot at working with him, I guarantee you it'll pay dividends for you long term. So you want to be, like Nick said, scarcity creates value. So you want to be able to let people know, hey, it's not guaranteed that we're going to work with you and that my upline is going to work with you, but there's a shot. And if you get that window of opportunity, you better take it, because it'll change your life. And you could even say that on a QI. You can say, listen, if Chris Truey decides to work with you, it'll change your life. One of the analogies that Nick mentioned to me before we started this podcast, I think is really great. We were talking a little bit about scarcity creates value, and I think that's a really important thing. He said, I think the example was, why is gold valuable? The actual metal, right? It's valuable because there's not very much of it in the world. Therefore, people place value on something like gold that is scarce. And because of that, literally today, I think an ounce of gold is like $1,100. So you can do the same thing with the people that are around you in the business, whether it's your upline or the speaker at the info session. If the person knows that they don't 100% have a shot at getting with your upline and working with them, that's kind of what you're trying to get at here. So you don't want to ever guarantee anybody anything when they're going through the process of getting started or the filter process. I heard Drew Tidwell, he's a Ruby on the Snipes team, a while back. He said, you want to be non-committal throughout the entire filtering process. And what that means is, if you're meeting with somebody or you meet somebody in a grocery store and you contact them, you don't tell them, yeah, man, I'm going to get you some information. What you tell them is, hey, I'm going to check with my business partners, see if we're still looking for some people, and then I might give you a call and maybe we can sit down. So he's non-committal. He's not telling them, yeah, I'm going to call you. Yeah, I'm going to help you come on to my business team. He's non-committal. When I show QI, I always wrap it up by saying, or I started out by saying, hey, if things go well here, we'll be able to get you to the next step, which is the informational meeting. I never say, hey, the next step is the informational meeting. That's what we're trying to get to, because that's not exactly the goal. I want them to know that there is a possibility that they might not be invited to the next step. And that scarcity, the fact that they know that they may or may not go to the next step, creates value in their mind, because if you're just telling everybody that you talk to that they're going to get to the next step, then there's no value on that, right? There's, if everybody can do it, why is it important? Why should I put any value on it? Another thing that I like to do is I tell people on the QI, I've got about 10 to 15 interviews or meetings like this week, and I'm only looking for about 3 people. So I can't make any promises to you. That's a non-committal power phrase that Jake Baker actually uses on all of his QIs. And that's really helpful to show them that you don't need them, that they need you, right? If they decide not to get started, that's 100% A-okay. Not a big deal. We have so many other people that we can talk to, so many other people in the pipeline, that we're doing them a favor by even talking to them and taking our time to sit down with them about this opportunity. It's really important that you understand edification. So that concludes the podcast for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll probably have another one in the next week or so. And if you have any specific questions, feel free to shoot me a call or a text. Hope you guys have a great week. Let's go out there and build a business and set some people free.